so embrace your dreams. Sometimes you gotta take a loss just to get the win, like lots of steps popping in like oxygen when boxes wet. Focus on the mental, never lose like smooth instrumental. Better choose on the move in a pencil, choose what I get to. Never lose move on the move, but it's simple. Never give up if we want it, then maybe we just keep winning, we conquering daily. Envision that pay me is never the
It's Tuesday, best night of the week to be hanging out on YouTube with yours truly, myself, Andrew LeDuc, aka Mr. Mallard, and Mr. Bud Copeland. As always, this is Divots and Pivots presented by Acorn Hills, acornhillscode.com. Get over there, use TBFY15 when you as a discount code when you check out. Get that 15% off and support Nate and the Acorn Hills crew over there. Bud, welcome in. This is a big day. Big day this week. We have TGL, another match tonight. Full Swing was on tap today for season 3. And obviously we are starting to get closer and closer to the real kind of big, heavy, entertaining push of the PGA season. So there's a lot to talk about, but first and foremost, as always, how's your day been? How are you doing tonight? Is this where's your morale level?
Morale's high. Morale is high. Life's good in the clubhouse. We're feeling a shift, a pivot, if you will, like you said, towards the meat of the golf season, kind of the real golf season when things really take off. We're into this we're only a couple weeks away from the Players Championship. We're, a couple months, it's like 48 days, 42 days, whatever, till the Masters.
Yeah.
And like you said, Full Swing just dropped, and we'll get into it more later, but things are starting to be on the rise. And, golf comes back to the East Coast with the Cognizant Classic or whatever the fuck we're talking. We're at the Bear Trap. Why don't we just start? We're at the Bear Trap tournament. It's Jack's place, the Bear Trap. Shout out my boy, Jake Marsh. I just saw he was posted on his Instagram. He's down there. He's based out of South Florida now and works for, himself, but he does a lot of stuff for PGA Tour, goes up to their studios. But it's the Bear Trap week. And so this means Sepp Straka is going to be everybody's favorite, although Shane Lowry's getting some love too, because they've won the Honda previously. And then I think somebody's going to come out of nowhere, and we're going to have another, Brian Campbell scenario. I think that Austin Geeter, even if he's not in the field this week, I think we're going to continue to see that from the PGA Tour. And what's fun about this Full Swing season and where we are with golf writ large is we do now have, let's say, the benefit of perspective. We can look back and see how things have been panning out and how things are shaping up and why some of these tournaments and why weeks like last week and this week are going to all of a sudden slowly but surely become more fun and more important because the dust is settling. Live is live. PGA Tour is PGA Tour. The agreement, the investment, whatever we want to call it, is going to start coming to an end. I saw murmurings, chirpings of they're already close to saying that you might see live golfers in signature events this year.
Yep.
As early as I heard the Players, and that could have been just kind of clickbait. But the conversation's turning to that where we're talking about details. Like, I guess the broad strokes are probably done. We know that the handshake agreement is coming up on a 2-year anniversary. So the fact that they're getting to those nitty gritty details, and TGL is about to wrap up pretty much the week of the Players. The playoffs go till the end of March. I think we're in for some big stuff. And there's lulls in other sports. Major League Baseball doesn't really come back and get kicked until the All-Star break. Nobody gives a shit about anything before the All-Star breaks. No disrespect. The NFL is about to start taking over again with the combine and then the draft and the NBA and the playoffs. So it's a perfect time for golf to kind of launch this next wave. What is it going to look like in a post-conflict era? And I'm all hyped because I just watched the episode, the PGA and US Open episode. Again, we'll talk a little bit more. We'll dissect Full Swing and kind of look back. But it puts into perspective the way they were able to weave the the content creators. Right. I was shocked. I was very pleasantly surprised to see that they weren't just looking for reporters anymore. What they're looking for are who are people that are A, representative of the golf game, and B, who do have a finger on the pulse. And so it was cool to see that. It was cool to see this evolution, this kind of shift. And now that we are looking at the Cognizant Classic with Joe Shit, the Ragman, and the rest of the qualifiers coming in there, no disrespect to Joe and his gang, these stories are just going to keep coming around. And all of a sudden we see Ludwig Oberg PGA Tour U guy, and now all of a sudden he's winning. Brian Campbell, Aldrich Potgieter, these Korn Ferry graduates, one a redemption story, the other one the up and comer. Still, it reinforces what we said from the beginning, that the PGA Tour was never really in danger. And I think it's hilarious that we're looking back going, oh, isn't it great? Isn't it a shame that we had to be so contentious at the beginning? No, that was what was supposed to happen. I think that now that it's working out, we're kind of rose-colored glasses. In the time, I think it's fully appropriate for people to be feeling like they were under attack. Their livelihoods were under attack. There was, you were definitely trying to lessen our impact on golf and raise your own. You can say that we were all doing it for the greater good of the game. And look at how far, great. There's been good outcomes, more money, whatever. More opportunity, I guess, for these good golfers to be on display. That's the goal. Although I still say that we don't want the full field at the Cognizant Classic. We don't want the full field, at the Copperhead Resort, at the Innisbrook, after the Masters. We want them at the big events. So us golf junkies are going to naturally fluctuate back to, gravitate back towards the week in, week out grind and seek these stories out. And that's why golf is going to continue to be in a healthy space and continue to grow. That's kind of the main thing. That was the idea of how's the ship going. I think the ship's been patched up. I think we're in a healthy spot and we're about to set sail. The new sails, that's TGL. That's the next evolution. And like what we're looking at here, despite the fact our Boston Frogs have already been eliminated.
Yeah, they I know I made a comment, I think it was last week, that Jupiter might be in the conversation for worst TGL team so far.
No, we locked it up.
So we locked it up record-wise. I still say if you actually watch the matches, last night ended up being a not so close in the end for the Frogs, but there were other losses that were actually somewhat close. They one of them was in overtime, so they still had a showing. But yeah, no, unfortunately, the Frogs are going to have to hop themselves home, and we'll see them next year, I guess. And we'll see if they're still the Frogs or who's still on the team. We'll see how it all shakes out for season 2 of TGL.
I'm curious when season 2 is going to start. Jamie, see if you can look into that for us. And in the meantime, I'm sitting here looking at Minwoo Lee leaning into this. And before we get into full swing, because there's a lot of Minwoo Lee that I was reading about. I only watched one episode in preparation for today's show because it was the one that meant the most to me personally. But I've been down the rabbit hole, 5 things we learned from this season. And I will say my initial reaction was, but I think it's designed. I think it's designed that way. I'm looking at tonight's lineup between between the Bay and Jupiter Links, and I just referenced Minwoo Lee. He wants to be the chef, but I still think that we make shirts that say "Yes, Chef" and we spell it like Scheffler, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
Does this really make your socks roll up and down? And I guess it does. You look at Tom. Okay, so you got Minwoo Lee, Wyndham Clark. Wyndham Clark's a night. I think Wyndham Clark is kind of like having the captain of the high school football team it's like having Nate. It's like having Nate on your team. He's Captain America.
Yeah.
There's no, even if he doesn't play well, he's not a negative. There's no bad side to him. So shout out Nate at Acorn Hills, TBFY15 for 15% off. Shane Lowry's a crowd pleaser, and then Minwoo Lee. But I look on the other side with Tom Kim, Kevin Kisner, and Max Homa. And I think you're right. I think Jupiter Links might be battling for worst team overall, because at least with the Frogs, we got Captain Keegan talking shit to JT, being like, listen, I wasn't going to give that to you. I wasn't going to give that to you. And JT's like, I know, man, that's why you're my captain. Yep. And then, so you got Rory, who's Rory. I mean, he's next to Tiger. He is the needle on the PGA Tour, not in golf. That's Bryson. But Kiz's personality is only going to continue to be so cute until he maybe starts to play really good golf.
Which he hasn't in the TGL yet at all, really.
No, but I think it's there. And I think we might see him kind of surrender to this. All right, I'm going to be the 18th tower for the rest of my career, but this is where I'm going to compete. Because what Tiger was saying, one of the reasons he created TGL was so that he could come out here and hitting a golf. It's the walking, it's the elements, it's all that really takes the toll. Swinging a golf club, as long as you can still do that, you can kind of hang with these guys, especially in this environment where we saw Kiz week 2 dig a little deeper, get a couple extra miles an hour, and he was hitting a little further. And maybe that's him going, wait a minute, this is in this arena, I need to reassess my game. Maybe I can hit it a little longer because I don't have to worry about the wear and tear on my body. And but I just think, just like everybody else, he's got to get on that fucking short game. Kiz, call me. I love you, buddy. I've been Go Dogs, been a big fan for a long time, but I would love nothing more than just to go out and maybe chop it up on the short game range. But Tom Kim, I think he's been the emerging star for TGL writ large. And I think it wasn't unpredictable because of his emergence in the President's Cup and then on the PGA Tour. And then we got to see a great behind the scenes with him in whatchamacallit, in Full Swing. And he is if Wyndham
affected him.
if Wyndham Clark, that's what I'm saying. If Wyndham Clark is like the prom king, Nate Wren, shout out Nate, Acorn Hills, TBFY 15 for 15% off. Shop acornhillsco.com. Tom Kim is the 8th grader who makes varsity and is so fucking good, but everybody wants to protect him because he's so kind of sweet and innocent. And then he saw his best buddy get arrested and he was all choked up over it, where I guarantee you there were some people who were like, well, the field just got easier when Scotty got arrested. But then those same guys were like, damn it, if he's in jail when I win this, there's going to be asterisk next to this thing forever. You know what really threw me on that? Not to get ahead of us, I totally forgot about the Rory divorce that same week. All right, so back to TGL.
I didn't forget about it, but I forgot it was the same week. That's the part I forgot. Well,
how can you ever forget, right? I mean, no offense.
We'll get.
When's your wedding again?
September.
Which September? Not. I mean, just for anybody else who wants to come.
September 13th.
I think I am in town. I think we did block that off. Sorry. All right. So my closing thoughts on the TGL are, it's the truth. It's the next wave. I think we're not going to, I don't think this is a flash in the pan. I think that by having kind of a short compact season this time around, they've seen what they've had and we're just going to wait. And I think it's going to come back in the fall. I think what they're going to do is they're going to try to find a way to coexist with football in the early stages. This might be where we see those Ryder Cuppers kind of stay sharp in between the end of the FedEx Cup. And I mean, could you see that? Maybe all of a sudden they do like TGL in Madison Square Garden the week before, like the weeks leading up to the Ryder Cup, and that's all they're doing. I will say that's my biggest concern this year with the Ryder Cup. I loved seeing in Full Swing, and in just a couple minutes we'll finally get full into Full Swing. I loved seeing, Captain Keegan, we're going to fuck them up and all that kind of stuff. But until we can figure out how to stay sharp between the Tour Championship and day one of the Ryder Cup, the advantage is going to continue to stay with the Europeans, and it's going to have nothing to do with vibes or talent. It's going to be just straight up rust versus whatever the fuck the other side is.
Just sharpness, like you're saying. Like it's 100%. It's just 100% it. So when it comes to Full Swing, I'm 4.5 episodes.
Let's talk about it. All right.
Yeah, I'm 4.5 episodes in. So I found it interesting that you said like your initial impression so far is because you know what, you just made me feel like this is a safe place to also say the same thing. And that's not me saying that Full Swing season so far is bad. No, I don't know. I forget how many total episodes, probably 8 episodes. So I'm halfway through. I'm not saying it's bad. It's still entertaining to watch. But I think part of what made season 1 and season 2 great was that the unknown and it was like the first look into all these guys. And now we're on season 3. A lot of the guys are the same guys we've seen for the first 2 seasons. There hasn't been that moment yet through 4.5 that has drawn me in. Like we haven't had like the Joel Dahman episode or the Wyndham Clark episode of season 1 and season 2 that really gets your emotions going. We haven't even had that yet. It's all been about the competition so far, and I know we're getting it because I've seen the teaser clips that we're gonna get the Gary Woodland story, and that's gonna be the episode. It's gonna be the episode, and I'm waiting for it. But I think that's where we haven't had that, at least through 4.5 episodes right now. In the 5th episode that I'm in right now is basically the Min Moodley and trying to make the Olympic team and Scotty Scheffler's run at the Players and all that jazz. But I haven't been personally drawn into the human element totally yet with the season. And like I said, I think we're gonna get there. I think it's gonna come in crashing hard with Gary Woodland. We'll see. But you mentioned the YouTubers and the people who really have the pulse. One, Paige Sporonic so far is in it like crazy.
I can't help but smile. I'm sorry. I'm a big Paige fan. Always have been.
And the part that I just stopped watching before we came on was actually her and Wyndham talking about how they grew up playing junior golf together in Colorado, and she's known him since he was in braces and all that jazz. But what I noticed so far really is that Full Swing has now become the Dan Rappaport show. Like he is in every episode, he is the main commentator. Like, this is Dan Rappaport's basically narrative at this point. He's everywhere on it, and that's not a bad thing. I think he is a legitimate, like you said, someone with the finger on the pulse of what's going on, and people listen to him. He's charismatic. The way he talks into the camera, I think he brings all that. He's able to work the camera and the way he talks. It all works. So I think it's smart. But this is the Dan Rappaport show at this point.
He's gonna be our guy for the next 40 years in golf. Like you and me, our generation, we're gonna look back and he's gonna be our Jim Nance. Although I think Jake Marsh is gonna be our Jim Nance, by play-by-play caller, that kind of guy. Love my boy. For those of you who don't know, I'm not just a fanboy. Like I actually know the guy.
No,
I was about to say we're buddies. It's not like
we've talked about it on the show before. Yeah.
Okay, good. Well, speaking of, Jake was at Barstool. So this is my point. Rappaport did his stint with Barstool, and if you missed the interview this week, him and Riggs, they kind of had their reunion chat. And the thing that people want is they want friction. We all want that, hatred, that kind of stuff. And the fact that he had an amicable split from Foreplay and from Barstool to move on. Now he signed with Scratch, which is owned by PGA Tour. So he's basically the tour's kind of inside man on pop culture.
He found his way in the door into the room.
He's a trained, big time J, and I think he went to Barstool because it was a great opportunity in the moment to, get that exposure and probably some of that media savvy that you were talking about, spending that much time on camera and doing the podcast and stuff. He's great in full swing. That stuck out to me too, that he's featured a lot because I think that he is the model for what the 21st century golf journalist looks like. Right. He is a very good golfer in his own right, but he started out kind of on social media. He built up his own presence, and now he lives in the podcasting world. And I do just think that he's done a great job over the years of being objective. You learn kind of layer by layer that he might know some of these guys personally, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. But you don't really feel that when you read his stuff. And to your first point, he has his finger on the pulse of our age group. I think for so long, golf journalism might have been this top-down game of you have to, if you weren't there for Jack in '86, then you haven't really been around the block. There's probably a little bit of that. And if golf's going to be this open, accessible game, then you're going to have your experts. You're going to have your experts like Dan and those guys who are super in there and close. But what they also represent is an accessibility to guys like us. So when go ahead.
He reacts the same way as you and I react. Like they were showing him when they show those two short missed putts Rory had to lose, and they kept cutting to Dan on the sideline watching it live, and his reaction of like covering his mouth and bending over, like he's not reacting in like necessarily like the stereotypical professional golfer commentator way of the past. He's being himself. He's being a fan, and what I love is that the PGA Tour is eating that up and allowing that, and that's the growth that we talked about last week. That's the type of growth that is going to push this game forward.
I'm laughing because I forgot that in the midst of my Tiger mania, I like a foot and a half from his face screamed, "Give the people what they want, Tiger!" And he just laughed, looking back. Like, okay,
you got to react.
Okay, so, yeah, he was smiling. I mean, we were all were. Tiger just hit a fucking shot that made us all lose our mind. So I just want to say that along with you, I do think that it does feel like the Danny Rapp show, and I'm okay with that because I do think that his perspective is not only valid, it's informed, it's educational, et cetera, it's entertaining. So when I said that immediately, I think I might have an eyelash of mine. When I said my immediate reaction was meh, that's how my reaction was the first couple seasons as well, because it takes me about half an episode to remember that this is not written for you and me. It's written for, the masses to kind of get their glimpse into golf. This is why you might be entertained by golf. These are the storylines. These are why people watch. Yada, yada, yada. It's a gateway drug, just like after the Drive to Survive or whatever the Formula One series was. When that dropped, all of a sudden friends of mine, were asking like, "Hey, did you watch the race last weekend?" I'm like, "What the fuck are you talking about? Like, you have never, you don't race open wheels or whatever the hell you guys want to say it." But all it takes is, it's like seeing a World War II documentary about the USS Arizona, and then you're booking flights to Pearl Harbor. Golf can get you like that because you can watch full swing, and then you can drive down the street to your driving range and go start ripping eggs. So I do think that was why my initial reaction was meh. And then I kind of took 3 steps back and I wanted to look at it because as I was watching the episode of Scotty getting arrested at the PGA, because I was there at that one, and then Bryson at Pinehurst because I was again there at that tournament. It was kind of a cool thing to look back on and remember. But it's this whole thing. They've done a good job of taking snapshots because they take hours and hours and hundreds, probably thousands of hours of footage. And they have to pare it down to 6 digestible bites that are their job is not to be representative of the 2024 PGA Tour. It's to entertain Netflix subscribers. So yeah, we are going to get a little bit more man of the people type vibe with these content creators being, our bridge between the everyman and the game. We are going to get these cherry picked stories, and I like what you said. I noticed that too. It looks like there's a lot more focus on these on-course things that happened this year.
Yes.
And then I saw the 6th episode is going to be Gary Woodland. And a quick side note, that one I might have to watch alone. I don't know if I ever told you about this, but that's basically how my mom went, was brain issues. She had brain aneurysms when I was in high school. And so she had to have like emergency brain surgery. It was this whole thing. That's why my best friend and I are best friends, because I shut everybody else out in the world. And this guy who had just moved to town, and he was a buddy from high school, still one of my best buddies. Shout out Jeff. He just showed up to my house when I was alone because everybody was at the hospital with my mom and blah, blah, blah. And he just like knocked on the door. He had the South Park movie and a 30 rack of Coors Light. And he was like, "Hey man, you want to hang out?" And that was it. I was like, yes. Because everybody else wanted to talk about what was going on.
Right. So, and he just wanted to help you get lost for a little bit.
Yeah. And, again, 25 years later, he's stuck with me. Sorry, Jeff. But that's what's going to be going through my mind. Because also we used to connect on golf. I've talked about it on this show before. My mom and I had a great connection, a great relationship with golf. So Full Swing is doing its job. It's entertaining guys like us who drink the Kool-Aid anyways. I'm actually giving a talk to some camp people later this week, and it's about career readiness at camp. And it's basically about motivating staffers who are seasonal in nature. And it's like your A+ players, your all-stars, they're going to show up, they're going to play, they're already motivated. So you can get them motivated and, rah, that's great. But you also have to reach those fringe people who are maybe a little jaded or need that buy-in in a bigger picture. So when it comes to Full Swing and its place in the game, I'm excited to watch the rest of the season. What I'm really, really, really excited about, though, is something you said, and I think that they will see this sooner than later. I think it'll be next season, is a turnover in some of these characters or a cast. I think they're going to start drawing out some of these younger players. I guarantee you we're going to see some Akshay Bhatia. We're going to see some Ludwig Oberg. And then we're going to see...
we see Ludwig episode 1.
He's the new... Well, he's the new it. He's it. And then we're going to see whatever veteran, Rory, JT, or Jordan, who can finally bring home another major and break that streak.
Yeah, and that's where I find myself when I'm watching this season. I find myself already, because now I know what, this, like I said, season 3, I know what the playbook is for them, how they're going to structure it. It's almost hard to focus on this season because I'm already thinking about what's already happened between the end of last season and so far this season that is going to make for a good Full Swing episode for next year. You know what I mean? So like I'm already thinking ahead. I'm already thinking of how they're going to capture the TGL experience, and all of that stuff. And we're going to get a glimpse into Keegan Bradley getting the call to become the captain this season. But like I'll be curious to see like how we see the Ryder Cup, however it plays out later this year, next Full Swing season. Like I just find myself looking ahead, and I hate that because I don't want to take away from season 3 of Full Swing right now, but because like you said, there are some good things in there. We see Ludwig Oberg, which I think that might be the biggest thing of episode 1. We get the correct pronunciation of his name finally.
Did they go through it? Ludwig Oberg.
It's Ludwig Oberg, and then like 2 scenes later, when he's teeing off at, I think it was at the Masters, they say his name wrong on day 1 on the
tee. I've seen that.
It's just
Ludwig Oberg.
Yeah. So, but I haven't really seen any Tom Kim yet, other than the Scotty episode part. Like it's a glimpse into him. We see a glimpse into Akshay. Same thing. I think it was episode 1. Joel Dahman we've gotten a glimpse of him, but he's not so far a presence in this season. So they're already starting a little bit of a turnover. Same thing with Justin Thomas. He makes more what feels like cameos at this point.
Oh, nice.
But Rory is definitely still a massive spotlight in this season so far
right now.
Well, yeah, and he's also just, he had himself a year last year. He, the Zurich
after watching that episode where he has heartbreak, at the U.S. Open, and then had that hella week at the PGA Championship. We do forget that he kicked ass at Quail Hollow. He was basically in contention everywhere, all over the place. He won, he won overseas. Mm-hmm. He's already won this year. I think that him, Scotty, and Bryson are going to be the favorites going into Augusta, and Ludwig. Sorry, you have to put that kid out there. Those are your top 4 right now. Damn, I just derped. Sorry, I heard somebody upstairs.
Especially with guys like Xander, who's dealing with an injury already right now.
Exactly. Thank you. I was about to say, why am I leaving X out? It's because he's hurt. When I said Scotty, I was thinking about the caddy episodes. Apparently, there's an episode that features and kind of focuses on those guys, and I always love that story because it does take a village.
Ted Scott and Carl. I forget his last name, but crap, who's he the caddy for now? I literally just watched it. I think it was episode 4. It's Ted Scott and Carl. I forget who it is. But they get into Nick Taylor and Adam Hadwin, and Adam Hadwin so far is like that kind of, it felt like that was gonna be like the underdog story, the Wyndham Clark story of the season, but they kind of gloss over him really fast, unfortunately. So like, I don't know. We'll see how it all shapes out. We'll see who comes out of it, because someone's come out the star of every season. It was Joel Dahman season 1. It was Tom Kim season 2, or Wyndham Clark. You can pick either one really out of Full Swing season 2. I'll be curious to see who comes out as like who takes the biggest jump as being known from people, like from your everyday fans, because that's what one thing Wyndham Clark says in this season is that he realized that more people know him now, and he basically accredits it to Full Swing, not his wins. He accredits it to Netflix.
That's fair.
So it'll be interesting. But let's take a quick break. Let's hear from Acorn Hills, and then we'll get into what happened yesterday in TGL. Because, like we said, the Boston Frogs were eliminated. Let's talk about how that happened.
Well, guys, today I wanted to talk to you a little bit about Acorn Hills. Now, this is not your average apparel company. In fact, this is a purpose-driven brand. Now, is the material super soft? Yes. Do the clothes fit great? Absolutely. But this company was founded on something much bigger than just making high-quality product. They wanted to make an impact on the environment, and that's exactly what Acorn Hills has done. I've been really impressed with not only the quality of their material, quality of their product, but also their mission. Every single product that's sold is sold with a tearaway seed paper tag. That means you take the tag off of your clothes and you can actually go plant it in the ground and trees grow out of it, which is remarkable. So not only are you getting a high quality product, but you're also giving back to the environment, giving back to the earth. Now, you've probably seen this company all over social media, lots of other places as well. They've even been featured on the Weather Channel, guys, the Weather Channel. So go check out Acorn Hills if you're looking for some high quality product, high quality gear, but you're also wanting to make an impact on the environment. Cheers.
The Weather Channel's
the Weather Channel.
The Weather Channel. Speaking of Xander Schauffele, because of his injury that we just mentioned a little bit ago, we saw something new that we haven't seen yet in the TGL yesterday, and that was a 1-week contract as a substitute, and that was partly because of Xander's injury for the LA Country Club, and we saw Tony Finau come in on a 1-week contract. Now, I would like to know what the details of that contract were, just from a standpoint, like how much are these guys getting paid to come in for 1 week? 1 match, 1 week. I'd be curious. It doesn't really matter, but just out of pure curiosity. But what I found interesting is that first of all, Tony Finau, no surprise, ate up the atmosphere. He was dancing on the first tee to the point where his first tee shot, he almost got a shot clock violation because he kind of lost himself in the music. So I'm here for that. But it was definitely noticeable through the first 9 holes, through the alternate shot portion of the match, that there's a learning curve. That because he's not been here for 3 matches like all these other guys have, he struggled reading those greens. He was missing a lot of putts. The short game, chipping off that artificial turf, like there was definitely a struggle that was noticeable. That definitely almost cost LA, and I say almost cost LA because if you didn't watch, LA came back from a 4-0 deficit going into the singles, and came back to win in overtime 5-4. So it was an electric match. I was at a bar watching it. I had them put it up on the screen, and everyone at the bar is like, "What the hell are we watching?" And I'm sitting there just talking it up, and next thing you know, people are cheering for what's going on. So it was fantastic.
Look at you doing the Lord's work out there.
I am, but it was great. It was great, entertaining sports because there was a comeback and it was needed because I didn't want to see another blowout. And it was fantastic. And Tony Finau ended up turning it around, finding the touch of the greens, and came in clutch and a big part of those final 4 points in the singles matches to get LA that comeback win.
And that makes sense. I'm giving Kiz shit earlier about his short game around those greens, but Tony Finau showed it. You come in there and it's so different to get used to it because the inorganic material, the artificial material, it's just going to grab your club different. The ball's going to grab different. You're not used to it. The shots where they're used to just getting a little give, it's just grabbing on them. We've seen a lot of those chip shots where on the regular golf course, you expect that last hop for them to skip through the fringe and get on and just stopping. Right. Guys are like, damn it. We've seen a lot of guys just having a putt from 4, 5, 6 inches off. Tony Finau was built for TGL. It was probably also dancing just to be away from the damn kids. Homeboys.
Well, they were probably there. I didn't notice, but they were probably there.
Homeboy's got a volleyball team now. I think they're 6 strong. Like, go for it. That was one thing that I'm proud of myself for not interrupting her at the U.S. Open. I saw Mama Finau in the merch tent, and she was literally 5 feet from me, and I was about to do the thing where I was like, love your husband, like big fan of your family, and she had like 2 t-shirts over her shoulder and everything. I'm like, she's just trying to be mom. She's just trying to be mom. Like, let's go back to work.
Let her be.
But there, and I think we could definitely see Tony. I mean, we have a new team coming next year, right? We got the Texas Wedges already. I think with unless that was total fucking bullshit.
I have no clue what you're talking about. Honestly,
are you serious?
I haven't heard that at all. So maybe your algorithm gave you a clickbait, but maybe I don't know.
Let me find this out. 2 days ago, this is Newsweek. What TGL expansion with Scotty Scheffler and Jordan Spieth? Yeah, the Texas Wedges. It's Scotty, Jordan. Let's see here. TGL.
I like them pulling in the Texas aspect of Scheffler and Spieth. Like, that does sound fun. Because I also heard on Full Swing, actually, someone threw out the idea of actually, no, it wasn't on Full Swing. It was on Twitter while I was watching Full Swing. Somebody threw out the idea of like a Dublin-based TGL for that include, Rory goes over to that instead with Shane Lowry and whoever else. But I like having the homegrown guys from those cities be part of it because it brings that atmosphere to it. We see with Keegan with Boston, like the pride that he has, like that brings something to it. Which, by the way, last night we saw Keegan shave the mustache.
I know. Captain Keegs shaves it.
He's done. Now we can say he did everything he can to try to turn the Boston Frogs around. Unfortunately, shaving the mustache wasn't enough, as they did end up losing 6-2 last night after being up 2-1. So that
okay. This is, by the way, this is what should happen. There is no Texas Wedges. That's why. But this is from Newsweek. Like somebody trying to muse about what should happen next year.
Okay, so
they're promoting the Texas Wedges with like. All right, not to mention when Jordan Spieth appeared on the Smiley Kaufman show, they discussed getting Texas a squad. Okay, so there's just banter about it.
Yeah, right. I mean, I'm down for that though. Like you said, I think Spieth would be great for the TGL as well.
Yeah, Spieth. They got Zalatoris up here as like an example, but they also, I should have noticed when they have Tom Kim in the shot that. Oh, although maybe he's getting traded, who knows?
So I think we're going to see some of that though. I'd be curious to see how these teams shape up for season 2. When do guys stay put or what happens? Like I'll be curious to see the rotation.
I did find the money though aspect. So
okay.
This has been known. So the guys, there's a $21 million purse overall. Mm-hmm. The winner of the SoFi Cup. So it's a season long thing. These guys aren't getting like per diem or anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the season long race, the winning cup getting $9 million. So 2.25 to each team member, and then second place getting 4.5, third 2.25, fourth 2 million, fifth 1.75, and sixth 1.5 million. So even if you go dead ass last, you're getting $375,000 just for participating this year.
All right, good job, Boston.
And all 24 players share a 10% equity stake in the league.
So that's where I'm be curious to know, like, how does Tony
How
get
does
paid
does
for
how
his
does
appearance? You know what I mean?
oh, he gets it. It's very easy to figure out, or they just defer. Okay, so at the end of the season, here's your cut for that game. You know what I
So
mean?
that's what
It's
I was
like,
just thinking.
yeah,
Yeah, do
that's
they
what I would
just give him like a
imagine.
small percentage of whatever they end up winning, kind of thing?
Yeah, it's probably
Yeah.
like, okay, if each player, we finish in fifth, so each player gets 1.75 million. We played over X weeks, and then boom, here's
They
your
just did
1
the
week
math.
check for that. Yeah,
Yeah, that makes sense.
that's what I would imagine. None of us know what the fuck we're talking about, though.
No, but that makes sense. But then again, that also seems too easy. So who knows? Sports money is never as easy as it seems it should be. But that's whatever. Besides the point.
So what was going on with? I saw something about the Atlanta Drive has figured out their hammer strategy, and
So all that's referring to is that they've won more hammer points
got it.
than anybody else so far, and that's all that was. And I don't know. I think the sample size is too small still to say that
For
they're
all of
doing it
this.
any different than any other team, honestly,
Right.
especially considering this is only week 2 of the whole everyone gets 3 hammers. Like that obviously
Right.
changed everything. So sure, like I think that's a great headline. It's a great
It'll be
headline
interesting.
given the information that's in it that they are technically, and that's what I do have to laugh when I'm watching these matches and they say, "Oh, Ricky Fowler has the longest putt in TJL history so far." Like
You have to, though.
I love when any sport uses the word history when it's their first year. It's just humorous to me.
It's like if Potgieter gets on there, it'd be like Aldrich Potgieter, the first South African born player in TGL history.
Right.
Everything's going to be the first in TGL history, but you have to, because
10 years from now, it's going to hold up,
I think so, because you know what, where I could also see this not taking off, but taking the place of. Saw an article the other day that somebody was kind of arguing it's time to wrap up the PGA Tour champions or the Champions Tour and I was thinking to myself, like, here's the problem, and here's why. At first, I was like, "Oh, you can't take away our Champions Tour," and then I started thinking about it. They won't, as long as there are sponsors. So as long as the money's there, they will. Because I go back to, at the end of the day, this is a TV show. This is all programming.
Mm-hmm.
We like to say that the PGA Tour is in the business of trying to identify the greatest golf. No, it's not. It's in the business of trying to get as many of the greatest golfers in the world playing against each other at the same time. It's trying to put the best quote unquote product out there. The Open Championship, the US Open, the PGA Championship, the Masters, those are in the business of identifying the greatest golfers in the world. And I mean, I could argue that the Players is as well, and I think that's why they're going to let like the top 5 in the live standings, or they might let like the top 10 kind of come in. Oh, I don't think 10, that's a lot. But anyways, back to my point. The PGA Tour champions might be on the chopping block as far as the way we know it now. It might lose TV deals, and so there goes that money. I don't think you're not going to have Tiger out there. You're not gonna have John Daly out there humping it anymore. You're not gonna have those guys who just, quite frankly, don't need to do that for any of the money. If the money's not there, you're not gonna get that level of talent. Those guys, where are they gonna go? Where's Freddie? Could you see maybe 5-6 years ago, maybe not you, because you're not as big of a golf dork as I am, but if this was 10 years ago, I could see a Freddie Couples in his mid 50s, late 50s being on one of these squads. Because again, what are you talking about? You're talking about, are you talented with a golf club and do you have personality? That's a big pool when you consider what they're trying to do here. So they did it right. Liv did it wrong. Liv thought that you could just pump more money into the product and everybody would care more. But as Rory points out in the episode, people just don't fucking care how much money we make. They're sick of it. They just, and he said the cliche, they just want to see the best golfers in the world, playing against each other.
Same thought when he said that. Yep.
Which is true. And I know last week I was sitting there going, "Oh, it's bullshit." No, I get it. That is the goal. And I would tune in.
Well, from his perspective, that's the goal. He wants to be challenged. He wants to beat the best players in the world. So I get that. I wouldn't want to see Champions League golfers too much on the TGL.
I'm not talking about all of them. I'm talking about obviously that 45 to 55 age range where,
because I think what the TGL has here is that they are appealing to that newer golf fan, that younger golf fan. Like, I mean, honestly, they're appealing to all levels of golf fans. But I'm not sure that it would land as big. Now, if you're going to tell me that they had like like a like a Champions Week or something, like somehow mixed into where like
No, I'm not talking about. I'm not talking about like Senior
I don't want
Citizens
like
Week.
I
What I
don't
was
want like
saying
a
is
whole
you mentioned
tour
in
team.
10 years, and what I was saying is in 10 years, I could see if you're a Hall of Famer, instead of going to the Champions Tour like Bernard Longer did and Steve Stricker and if Miguel Angel Jimenez, he's that personality, that ponytail, that swag.
Hey, if they allow smoking indoors, he'll be there.
Nice. That's what I'm saying is it's like that's who I think would the PGA the Champions Tour would no longer be an extension of like the greats going on to kind of their second act, and instead this in 10 years would be a much more attractive avenue. And if they are good enough to be in that kind of I can turn down the Champions Tour and do this, then they're going to have the gravitas with the fans that they'll already have a built-in fan base.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, and I think because I do agree that like now that this is here and this is taken off. Hello there, Missy. Hi, Dada. Now that this is taken off the way it has, like I see Tiger doing this instead of the Champions Tour. Like we've talked in the past about how Tiger will probably still do the Champions Tour because he wants to find ways to be competitive. Like he's not going to want to quit. But now that he has this, like I don't see him being on Champions.
Neither do I, because I don't see him wasting opportunities to play in as many more majors and masters and everything. And if this can keep him competitively sharp, again, if we have 2 seasons, if we have like a fall and a winter, if we have that right after the FedEx Cup playoffs, maybe and then they break for the Ryder Cup and then they come back or whatever, but then then it just disappears, almost like Grey's Anatomy, where it starts in the late fall and then it takes a break around Thanksgiving when football really kind of amps up, and then it comes in right after the Super Bowl. I think that's what we could see. This is going to become like The Bachelor for dudes, where every time there's a lull in the football season, we're going to be here with TGL to kind of scratch that itch and keep you going. So that's kind of my prediction for TGL is it's going to be a landing ground for more of these established again, JT, Justin Thomas, and Jordan Spieth. Could you not see them talking shit for the next 20 years at TGL? And then all of a sudden, we have these kind of like all-time head-to-head records where this has steam. What it tapped into, we talked about this before, where Liv missed horribly bad, was when they tried to create teams out of thin air. And I admit, once again, I was the very first one to be like, how can you have fucking teams named after a city, but they're not actually going to be in that city playing the sport? Like I couldn't wrap my head around it. Yep. And then it hit me. They're not, they have fans. Mm-hmm. Boston people went, wait, what? I bought the hats like the second they went on sale. They were
very deliberate with the cities they took. They pick cities of fan bases that are just
even Jupiter. Even Jupiter is code for Miami, kind of like the Marlins when they've been the Miami Marlins, the Florida Marlins, whatever the Miami Dolphins is South Florida's team on that side of the Everglades anyway. Mm-hmm. So they did it right. There's a big future for it. I can't wait to get down there. Road trip. And I think that we're going to see shortly after, mark my words, we're going to see the content creators that they're doing, because we got the first Creators Classic coming up. Mm-hmm. We will dissect that next week before the Players Championship comes up in a couple weeks. Anyway, but for TGL, I'm waiting to see if they let these content creators kind of roll right in there and fill the void, because it is a great avenue for them and for this. And now that we're familiar with it, they might not get ESPN coverage. Shit, they might, but for the money that TGL or even Palm Beach State or whoever owns this place, the SoFi Stadium, that you'd be crazy to let it sit there unless, if they said Paige Moranic said, hey, me and my crew are going to go up against, the good guys. Can we borrow your place for a couple days and film? Yeah. First of all, Paige, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
So that brings me back to Paige and a question that she put out there. Did you see where she tried to say that it was a controversial take, but I just think that it was clickbait and she got me. But she brought up the whole the tee issue as well, that you should play your tee box should be dictated by your handicap.
Oh, when did she bring that up? I missed that.
Oh, this was like a couple of days ago. It might have been. Let me see.
Oh,
here.
not in full swing. Oh, I thought you were saying.
No, this is not in full swing. This was
okay.
February 25th, so this would have been this morning, I guess. So she put this out there yesterday, and I think she said something along the lines of, like, I know this is going to be a hot take, and it's going to ruffle some feathers, but it was kind of one of those trying to lead into something that was controversial. Instead, she was just doing
I don't think it's controversial. I think that it's been said enough now. I think there's enough push behind that. And here's the thing: I'm all for that. I think that would be great. I don't think it's ever going to happen. And you know why? Because I think there's way too many try-hard ego guys that go out on a golf course to feel big and strong.
You're right. I think I don't think
you know
it's
what I mean? Like,
I hope it does. Well, it's about there's following, and then there's like enforcing. Because if you ask me, if you're at my club, then yeah, you know, on right there, it's gonna be printed on your scorecard. It's going to say right there, or if you're a walk up, you know, we look you up, give me your GIN or whatever. Oh, I don't have a handicap, but I normally shoot in like, you know, 80, 85, 90. It's like, okay, you're still going to play for the Reds.
Right.
Well, no, listen, it's just like, it's like sneaking beer on the course. Once you get out there, if you want to try to get away with it, fine. You know, marshals might come around.
He's not going to have a marshal on every hole.
But I would revel being one of those starters who was like, show me your gin. Like, you know, I don't see, and then like just telling people like, back it the fuck up. Cause I have to play up a couple tee sets for my league. And I'm telling you, it really doesn't make too much of a difference. It makes it slightly hard. The game is just as fucking hard 150 yards in, no matter how far you get there or how long it takes you to get there.
You know how many times I've been on a tee box at, you know, a random municipal where just so happens that day either someone was lazy or they're doing work where they have white, blue, and black tees all in the same spot. Like sometimes it doesn't matter at all. So yeah, I think I'm fine with it. I think it would. Do I think it would have a massive impact on the pace of play? No, because I think there is something to bad shots find their way to happen no matter what. I don't care what tee you're hitting from. If there's shit anywhere nearby, you're gonna eventually hit it in the shit. So I think that's just the way golf is. It's the golf gods, golf karma, whatever you want to call it. So I don't think that would be like the be all end all, you know, solution to pace of play for a Saturday for the everyman golfer, every woman golfer. But do I think it would make it more enjoyable for a lot of people? Sure, and I'm fine with that. I don't have an issue with playing up on tees for myself. I will say, like, if I'm playing with you, like the time I played with you, like you and our random partner were playing the tips. So I was like, well, I guess I'm going to play the tips. I had no business playing the tips, but I wasn't going to be the only one playing up on the whites, you know? So I was like, whatever.
So let me look here real quick. We got Liv going to Hong Kong in March, and then Sentosa Golf Club, and God, they go back-to-back weeks. Oh, Singapore. I thought that was Florida. So who knows? Because that's around the same time as the Players. So it's going to be interesting to see if this does develop into. I tried to Google to see if anything comes up with Live golfers playing signature events.
Already,
yeah, no, not at all.
I will say there's been a definite noticeable tone change in full swing when it comes to referencing Live. We see it from Rory and the way he talks about it. Where like there was a shot of him earlier on in the process where this little kid asks him like, what are your thoughts on Live? And you could tell this was back when they first announced the Boston Common Frogs before TGL actually started, so it was like still kind of in the midst of a lot of it. And this kid's like, oh, what do you think of Live? And he was like, I hate it. But then later on in the episode, he's talking about, he's like, he's not necessarily saying he likes Liv, but he's kind of talking about someone like Bryson and wanting to play against him more. And you can tell that you can almost see like the exact moment, like the tone shifts.
So happy you brought this up. So happy
there's a much different portrayal of it in this season so far.
And that's because the game is over.
Right.
Liv is no longer a threat. I remember the exact scene with Rory saying, like, I'd love to play against Bryson more often, you know, if it was a possibility, you know. And, you know, I do kind of regret how I was so judgmental to be. Well, of course, because now you're not, you know, the threat isn't imminent. And so it is easy to be a little conciliatory, and it is, I mean, he could just as easily say like, nah, fuck him, or like, no, I don't think, you know, we're just as good, but he admits it. But Bryson is a perfect example of he's a unicorn. He's the exception.
Mhm.
He's both the exception and the rule. And I think what I mean by that is the rule we've talked about moving forward is going to be how can you develop your brand?
Right.
Can you once you've established yourself as a professional golfer, if you really want to try to grow more outside of the course, it's all going to be about your digital engagement, whatever, if that's what you choose. He flat out did say, he's an entertainer though. He's like, I'm an entertainer. I want to entertain. That's all I want to do. Yada, yada, yada. So maybe if it wasn't this, he said it would be ping pong or it would have been anything else. So that's why I don't like looking at Bryson, even though I was about to do it, and saying like, that's the path forward. He's a fascinating character. And I think he encompasses so much of what golf could offer.
Yes.
That it was funny when he's like, somebody made the comment, he doesn't like to be disliked. He didn't like that.
Yeah, that was a big part of his episode there.
I don't think he gave a shit about being disliked. I think his goal at the moment changed. It's kind of like he was bored, so he bulked. Or he was curious, and so he bulked, and then he was bored, so he bolted for Live, and then he won on Live, and then okay, maybe I can still win again. Okay, then I won on the PGA Tour, and then he was bored with that, so he's moving on to social media. He's going to get bored with this, and he's going to moving on to something else. I think he's just a genius who's just happens to be picking these things instead of like Robert Oppenheimer, who decided to go through the world of physics, which ironically enough
is Bryson
professor. Yeah, exactly.
See, but I still think it's everything you just said. So I think the being bored and curious to see, and then deciding to bulk up and explore that level of physics and golf, I think that's right. But everything else he said, I think that you just said he did because he was bored. I think it was much more deliberate than that. I do think he had a plan when it came to when he.
Oh, I didn't mean haphazard. I mean, when I say bored, I mean like curious, like right. Okay, this isn't making my socks roll up and down. Because again, I win the U.S. Open, or like I won the U.S. Amateur. Great. Now what's next? Like I want to hit the ball further than anybody.
I think when he heard the Live kind of setup and schedule, I think for him at that point, that's when something clicked where he said, well, wait a minute. Like I've always had this in the back of my head of how can I entertain more? This will give me that chance. I think he chose to go to Live with the idea of building a social media brand and seeing what he could do with that, like from the get-go. Like I know it took him a little bit to obviously settle into Live and then get the social media thing going, but I think that was always the end game plan here.
That's fair, because he does say that about how like, and I guess until Live, PGA Tour was the only way to be, I guess, on display and at the top of golf. Yeah. So that's fair. I'll cede you that.
Because at one point he does say, sorry, real fast. At one point he does say, someone asked him what would be his ideal season, and he says to win a major and to win multiple times on Live. Like that was his answer to it. So like he does still hold it in some sort of like. I did find it interesting that he still put major first. Like that's still obviously it confirms what we already knew. Like the majors are still at the forefront of all these guys on Live. That's still what they want to do. They still want a major. No matter what tour they're on, they still want a PGA.
They're professional golfers. Major. That's what they all want. Yeah,
exactly.
It's like even if you ask guys in the Canadian Football League, what do you want? And it's like, I want a Super Bowl. I want a Super Bowl.
Exactly.
Like, Grey Cup would be nice.
Winning
the Live title is great, and your bank account loves it. But what do we actually want? This. Speaking of Live golfers, Anthony Kim sidelined for a while with a blood clot, especially after he just made that. If you didn't see his emotional social media post about being sober. And, just shout out to him, and hopefully he recovers, because he's a good character for the game of golf. He's a good story for the game of golf, even though sometimes when I think he's a little brash, I can appreciate it because he's dealing with his demons. And so you can't judge a man for what kind of armor they put out there. So, just thoughts to AK as he kind of figures out his path, because I remember when he was returning. Now, knowing what we know now, I mean, it was no brainer. And I really thought to myself, there's no way in hell he goes from being disappeared to PGA Tour.
Yeah, we talked about it a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was evident when he went over to Live and this, that, and the other. And he was the first to admit there's a difference between he can go around the world and probably burn up money games with these guys on the outside. But tour golf is a different level and a different beast. And even Live, which is not technically tour level golf, in my opinion, even if you do have guys that came from other tours, we know, I think it's very good, entertaining, and high level golf. But we'll see how this shapes up after Live this year with the contracts, who comes back. Who are they able to sign? Is there any more money there? I don't think so. I think once they settle this whole thing, And as soon as that came out of my mouth, who knows? What if all of a sudden this is where it's going to get dicey and scary? If you open that door to guys where it's like, yeah, you can play the signature events and you can be on live. I think it's going to
that's like half the PGA schedule right there, honestly. Or maybe
well,
not
it is.
exactly,
It
maybe not
is.
half, but it's close.
I don't think it's going to work this way where it's going to be you can be on like both tours. I think it's going to be instead the PGA Tour is going to like reserve the right to have 3 invites per or whatever that is. Well, proportionally it makes sense. Again, live is 13 teams. What is 13 times whatever that number of restricted numbers.
Right.
They have one limited one limited field no cut event worth of golfers, as opposed to the PGA Tour that has hundreds. When you talk about the amount of people who could potentially be playing any week with Monday qualifiers or sponsors exemptions, or these like the pecking order that they have where there's 140 spots, but there's like 180 or 190 guys with their card or at least tour playing privileges. They might be on the Corn Ferry Tour, but because it's a special week, they have status enough to kind of. So when you have that deep of a bench, you can't fuck those guys over too much. But if it does mean for the greater good of the game, then you might have to give them a seat or two at those events.
What if they said, now this is a thought that just came to me now, so it's probably shit, but what if they set it up like this to where it's part of the deal here, because you mentioned the 13 teams. What if for the signature events and for the majors, each team on Live got to send one representative for their team and they're able to wear their team logo, because that was always a part of contention when they come back for the players. Are they going to be come back for the majors? Are they allowed to wear their logo? Whatever. So they get to represent Live, broadcast Live, and then from the Live side, depending on the finish, maybe they have it tiered out or something, like that team gets a bonus for how well that team member finishes in that PGA event. You know what I mean? Like, is there a way for them to incentivize the team aspect being
from the Live side? From the Live,
yeah. You know what I mean? Like,
Live can do whatever they want. They probably will. Like that's a great
like, that wouldn't shock me. Like, they can give that entire team bonus for their representative.
Yeah, you go fly the flag. You go fly the flag, and you make a kill. You get you come home and you share it with the boys. Sure. I still think the majors are going to do what they've been doing, which is if you have an exemption, you keep an exemption, and then we'll start handing out invitations as we see fit. Joaquin Neiman already going back to the PGA. I'm sure Danny Berger is going to bitch and moan his way into something. Is it Daniel Berger? Who's over on Live? Haven't we done this before? It's Berger, isn't it?
No, Berger's not.
Taylor Gooch, the Goocher, the fucking Goocher. That's who I am very sorry, Daniel.
I hate that because Gooch was like on such a rise, and like get it for the money, but like from a playing standpoint, from a skill standpoint, and like an excitement standpoint, he was on such a rise on the PGA Tour that I think he was like he could have taken the tour by complete storm and been this force. And then he went to Live, and now nobody ever hears about it. Like, it's just
he doesn't give a shit.
It's a shame. I know he doesn't
won $60 million over on.
Yeah,
Live.
I know he doesn't care. He's happy, but from a competitive standpoint, like I wish that didn't happen because that felt like a loss from a competitive entertainment standpoint.
He just
a guy like that.
Meh. Fuck him. Cry baby. My whole thing this entire time with these guys has been perspective. Have some fucking perspective and some humility. Even the bitching and moaning John Rahm, the world golf rankings are they're meaningless. No, they're not meaningless. I've said this again. You have thousands of golfers who potentially can feed in between all the 24 different tours that are involved.
Exactly.
You have probably thousands of golfers that could potentially feed into this. You opted to take a dozen guys that, have heavy impact, are good. But again, they're outliers. They're not the rule. The rest of the guys on Live, they might have higher world rankings. They might not even be sniffing the PGA Tour. So don't, you cherry picked the talent from one. Again, you thought that the spotlight was going to also bring the shine. And instead, you found out that what you brought was the talent, not the audience, not the stories, not the history of the PGA Tour. You brought the talent. And they are talented golfers, and they are some of the best in the world. Taylor Gooch probably is a top 20 golfer, if not top 10.
I would say
on any given day. His sample size gets smaller, and I think it gets watered down. The more you win on that Live Tour, I don't think it makes you any more or less of a golfer because, again, it's limited, et cetera, et cetera. So keep having it be high level, entertaining kind of. It's like saying the Savannah Bananas professional baseball players.
They technically are, yes.
Yeah, they're pro ball players. They get paid to play baseball in front of a lot of fucking people, and they do it well, and it's entertaining and it's fun. But if you talk to if you listen to the Savannah Bananas guy and his yellow suit and all his stuff, he's not trying to be anything more than they are. They're a very entertaining minor league baseball experience. Full stop.
It's all about the crowd. He was the first one to say it. I've seen the interviews. It's all about the crowd, not that on field is just a medium.
These guys tried to say that they're the next thing in golf, and that's what really bugged me about it. Be who you are, play your game, swing your swing, and enjoy the international tour series while you wait for the special invites in the majors instead of grinding it out like everybody else.
Yeah, and I think unfortunately, that's where they made the mistake of taking on as a league the personality of Greg Norman. I think it all comes back to Greg Norman.
We can circle back to that next week.
We'll have to do that because I do think there's something there to where his own
juicy cliffhanger, because we can update what's going on with the Shark.
We'll leave it there. As always, thank you for joining us here on That Sports Podcast Network for Divots and Pivots. We're here every Tuesday night at 8 o'clock, presented by Acorn Hills. We love you guys. As always, stay classy, and we will see you next week.
Go Frogs.